Today's video is sponsored by Kunai Threads. Whether it be a playmat, a shirt, or even a pickleball set, Kunai Threads has you covered. Click the link in the description and use code Kunai Christmas for 20% off your entire order. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't get better than 20% off everything. Thank you, Kunai Threads, for sponsoring this video. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Johnny TCG video. This is Johnny TCG back in my poorly lit office, and I'm happy to be with you today. I hope you're having a great day. Today, we are going to be taking a look at one of my favorite leaders in the game, Starter Deck 10, Red Purple Luffy. I've loved this leader since the day he was released, but he always felt like he was missing something. Now, between the Purple Luffy starter deck, which gave us some support, and then the OP09 cards that Purple got, I feel like his viability is at an all-time high. There's a lot of different ways you can build this leader, and that's one of my favorite things about him too, as I've seen a lot of different deck lists with a lot of different styles, and I love trying them all out. Today's video, I'm going to do a deck profile, taking a look at the list I've been running so far in OP09. Then we're going to do a giveaway. If you're new to the channel, I always have a giveaway in my videos. Custom Don, custom leaders, stay tuned for that. And then, of course, we have games on the sim. I think you're going to enjoy them, so stay tuned for those. Jumping into the deck profile, for those that don't know, Red Purple Luffy is a 6,000 power leader. In exchange for that power, he is only 3 life, which is really awkward. His ability is Activate Main once per turn. If you have 0 or 8 Don on your field, you may ramp a Don as active from your Don deck. Being able to cheat out 9 cost bodies on what is normally your 8 cost turn or your 8 Don turn is really good, especially because those 9 cost bodies are usually really strong, usually much more strong than an 8 cost character. Unless we're talking about 8 cost Gecko Moria, but don't mention him. The name of the game for this leader is really just ramping as fast as you can and then dropping some big bodies on your opponent. You can do this through a variety of different ramping cards, and we'll talk about those in a moment. If you're running a different list than mine, definitely let me know what your differences are. I would love to hear it in the comments down below. There's always room for improvement, and I love hearing the comments because some of you just have some great ideas. And then I incorporate those into my game and play better. Starting off, we have 4 of the 1-cost Nami Searcher. This is one of the most OG cards in the game. Just looking at the top 5 for a Straw Hat, most of the time I am looking for a Zoro Joro or potentially a bigger body. If I'm running low on counter, I'm also looking for a 2K. This is great. I really like to see this in my opening hand. Next, we have 4 Whitebeard. Now, a lot of people don't play Whitebeard. It's probably one of the more controversial picks. Some people really like him, some people don't like him. I personally really like him because it makes your leader an 8,000 power leader, which is really hard for your opponent to swing at when they're just getting to 8 or 9 Don, depending on how fast you ramped. So for that reason, I really like him. If you can establish him and then play him maybe back to back, or establish him and then Eustace Captain Kidd, I really think he's a great card. There is definitely an argument to go for a more rush-centered build, and so maybe dropping the Whitebeards for 8-cost dragons would make a lot of sense. I definitely want to try that as well. A more rush-centered build where you're not caring so much about the 8,000 boost on the defensive side. You're really just charging at your opponent. I definitely think that's valid, but for me, I love 9-drop Whitebeard in this deck, and yeah, I think you should definitely consider him. We're running 2 of the new Ben Beckman from OP09, 7 cost, 7,000 power. I really like him, but only enough to put 2 copies in. His on play allows you to trash one of your opponent's 6,000 power or less characters. This is pretty good, especially on curve if you're able to deal with whatever your opponent just played the turn before. That is very infuriating for your opponent to deal with, but I also understand that he's not the best, you know? There's definitely arguments to maybe play 7-cost Sanji, the new OP09 one, instead of him, and I would definitely hear you out. Now, Yasab is a card I actually really like. With Yasab on play, you get to give your leader 1,000 until the start of your next turn, meaning that early game you can make your leader 7,000 power, which is definitely hard for your opponent to hit. I definitely think that's worth it just because you are low on life just to begin with. 3 life really stinks, and so making your leader 7,000, having a turn where your opponent is likely not going to swing into you, feels very good. I like him at 3. 4 Bon Clays. Now, Bon Clay I hope you bought yours already because he got very expensive. It might not be a must in this deck, but I think if you're on the even curve and if you don't have a Zoro, that Bon Clay is usually your best bet for 4 Don. He lets you ramp, and even late game situations, especially against Blackbeard, I think he can be very valuable. When Blackbeard starts dropping those 10 costs, if you have a Bon Clay on the board, you can use your Bon Clay as a 12,000 power swing. Huge. So yes, I definitely think Bon Clay's a 4 of. If you don't have Bon Clays, it might not be the end of the world, but I really think he's helpful in this deck. Let me know your opinion on him in the comments down below. For Zoro, another crucial card in this deck. The reason we love Zoro is especially on the odd curve. We can start off turn 1 with a Nami search, and then turn 2 we play down the Zoro on 3 Don. Hopefully he survives into the next turn. So now we're at 5 Don. We give a Don to him. He swings 5,000 at your opponent's leader while ramping a Don. Now this ramped Don brings us to 5 Don on the field, and then we play Yasab, and then we are 7,000 with our leader, and then we swing 7,000 with our leader. Oh my god, that's great. As you can tell, I am very passionate about that combo. But seriously, Zoro is a great ramp card. Your opponent has to answer it on the next turn while it's rested, because if they don't, you're going to be able to ramp again. I absolutely love when my opponent swings into my leader early game and not into the rested Zoro, because that means I can ramp again for free. Now this is the spice. This is the reason you come to Johnny TCG's videos, is because you get the inside scoop on the spiciest deck lists and the spiciest tech choices. That's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. This was definitely a misclick from my OP09 deck, and so yes, I accidentally left Miss Doublefinger in there. It's a 2k counter. If I had realized this sooner, I would have swapped it out with the 2k Franosuke, or probably just the Rush Sanji. That's the new 7 cost from OP09 that allows you to rest one of your opponent's characters and rush. But alas, we forgot to do that, so I'm going to tell you this is spicy tech and that y'all just need to see the vision. 2 Gear 5 aka Time Walk Luffy's. I love this card, and a lot of people are actually dropping it, which I find interesting. A lot of people are going towards a 10 cost Shanks build, which I'm definitely intrigued by. There's definitely merit to the 10 cost Shanks because not only is it strong rush card, it also gives your opponent's characters minus 1000, so it is like a defensive option as well. Right now, I'm not running it, but I definitely am going to do a deck list that focuses more on the Shanks and the Dragon in the future. But enough of that side tangent. We're talking about Gear 5 Luffy. This is an amazing finisher, one of the best finishers in the game. Play this at the end of the game and your opponent often will just have no answer. 4 2k counter, 6 cost, 6,000 power Sanjis. This card is great in this deck. Not only is he a searchable 2k because he's Straw Hat type, he also can be played for only 3 Don if you are 2 or less Don cards behind your opponent. This mainly happens after you've played your Gear 5 Luffy and returned all your Don to your Don deck, so that can keep you alive another turn if you really need it. We're running 4 9-cost Luffys from the new OP09 set. Tell me if 4 is a little bit dramatic, but I really like this card. I think that he goes well with Whitebeard, where you have the choice if, oh, does the situation call for rush, or does it call for a little bit more defensive situation, establish a big body and kind of take more of your time. What's really nice about him is that with his on play of returning 1 or more Don to your Don deck, you also get to draw a card, and so late in the game when you need that card advantage, it comes in handy. 4 Queen from Starter Deck 4. This card has been played in a lot of purple decks since the beginning of time, and we are still playing him 9 sets later. This card is great late game when you're trying to stall out a little bit. Maybe you don't have that end game rusher that you really need. You're going to throw this down, draw 2, trash 1, set up a decent sized body, and hopefully find the pieces you need for next turn. 4 7-cost Eustace Captain Kids. He's 8,000 power, and I really like this card. It seems like this card is best suited for this deck. You could also play him in Purple Luffy, but I always just see people saying, oh, I took this card out because I wasn't satisfied. But in Red Purple Luffy, I think he's a lot better. The reason for this is with his on play / when attacking effect of being able to give your leader plus 1,000 power. It makes much more of a difference to go from a 6 to 7,000 power leader than a 5 to 6. And so we love him for that. We also love him because he can return rested Don. And so you could hypothetically play out Whitebeard, use 9 of your Don, use Eustace Captain Kid's effect effect to return one of those Don and then re-ramp that Don with our leader as active. This is really good because we like to keep a Don or two open for Gum Gum Giant, which I'll get to in a moment. I'm running 4 Usohachis in this deck. This card has become so popular in purple decks since its release in the new starter decks. What Usohachi does is, one, he's a 2k counter, which who doesn't love a searchable 2k counter, but also if you have 8 or more Don on your field, if you play him out, he rests one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. This is perfect to hit a blocker and then you swing for game. How can you have a problem with that? Next we have 2 Onamis from the starter deck as well. I really like this card, but not enough to make it more than just a 2 of. Last but not least, we have the 1 cost event from OP09, Gum Gum Giant. This card is ridiculous. This is in all the purple Luffy decks, all the red purple Luffy decks, all the black purple Luffy decks. Any purple deck is basically running these, usually at a 4 of, just because it's so good. It's a 1 cost event, plus 4,000 power. But when you use it, you have to return 2 Don to your Don deck, which is expensive, but you're usually saving it for the end of the game when you have that Don to spare. So you return 2 Don cards, then you trash 1 card from your hand. Again, ouch, expensive. But you get to draw 2 cards after that. So this allows you... So in desperate times, you could also hypothetically draw into more counter and then use that to stack on top of the plus 4,000 if you really need to save the character or your leader. On screen, I've got a lot of different cards that you could possibly run in this deck. When I said that there's a lot of different ways to build this deck, I was not lying. Definitely let me know if you think any of these are must plays. I think that you can make the argument that any of these cards could be in the deck, and so I'm definitely going to be trying other builds out, incorporating more of these cards. There's definitely some of them which I just wish I could fit into the current build, but there's not really any room for it. Before we get into the gameplay, of course I have a giveaway for you. Unfortunately, I do not have any custom starter deck 10 Luffy leaders. Johnny, get your stuff together. You say he's one of your favorite leaders, but you don't have a custom leader for him. Instead, we're going to be giving away a leader that I think a lot of people are still going to like. It's going to be OP09 Shanks. Make some noise. Boom, throw them up on screen. This is using art from the One Piece Treasure Cruise game. I am not the artist. I am not selling this. This is just a fun personal project. All you need to do to enter this giveaway is 1, leave a like, and 2, leave a comment. It's as simple as that. And if your heart so desires, leave a subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. My wife actually said that if we don't get to 1,000 by the end of the month, that she's gonna trash all of my One Piece cards. My wife's saying it's over, so definitely consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm just being silly, of course. Don't feel pressured if you don't love the content, but it would mean a lot if you do. That's enough of me yapping. Like the video, comment on the video if you want to win the custom Shanks leader, and that's enough yapping for me. So, on to the games. Our first game up is against a red Shanks from OP09. He's probably going to be up there with Blue Doflamingo as one of the most played leaders in this set, so you better get used to him. We are on the odd curve and we do not have a turn 1 play. We're cool with the odd curve though, because on turn 2 we'll be able to play Zoro Joro, and then with his swing on turn 3 we'll be able to ramp. For 1 Don, they're going to play out Uta. I'm hoping they don't find a 10 cost Shanks off of this. That is always the card they're looking for pretty much. Unless they don't take it. And if they don't take it, that just means they either have multiple or are just in desperate need of counter. They are going to find the Lime Juice, which is a 2k. Nothing too crazy there. Will they have another searcher for the 1 Don? Moment of Truth going once, going twice, and they pass it back to me. We're going to start off with a 6,000 swing into their leader. Now, Red Purple Luffy has been known, I believe, to have the advantage over Red Hair Shanks just because we do have that 6,000 leader stat line, which is so good against Shanks. Shanks' ability allows once per turn for you to minus the power of one of your opponent's leaders or characters by 1,000. So if you're a 5,000 power leader, you're going down to 4,000, and then he doesn't even have to counter out of that swing. But for us, he'll still have to counter out, which he does with the Yasab. We play down the Zoro Joro 3-drop and then just pass to them. For 4 Don, I don't think Shanks plays a lot of 4-drop characters besides maybe Lucky Roo. They could also leave 2 Don open for a Gum Gum Red Hawk. That would be very likely, as they'd be able to use it to get rid of my Zoro Joro. They're just going to give 4 Don on their leader and swing big at me for 9. I am just going to take this. I would have to give them 4k of counter, and I am not trying to do that, especially so early on. We do get the 9 cost secret rare Luffy from OP09, which will be a nice card to play when we ramp to 9. Starting off, I'm debating on how I want to do this turn. I'm going to go 5,000 with Zoro. He may just use the minus 1,000 effect on the Zoro swing, which is perfectly fine with us. The main point of that was to ramp a Don, and getting them to use their leader ability is cool as well. Now we've got 5 Don to work with, and this is where we play Yasab. I really like Yasab in this deck. I don't know if every red-purple Luffy deck is running him, but I am personally a fan. Making your leader 7,000 for the turn, even on your opponent's turn, this early in the game is really tough to deal with. I wouldn't be surprised if next turn they can't even get a swing off on me. There might be a trigger. They took a minute, but nope, no trigger. We're just going to pass it back to them. This turn, I was expecting maybe a Yasab or a Lucky Roo, but they have neither of those. They're just going to go big again and swing into life. I guess their plan is to just whittle me down and then drop their big bodies like 10 cost Shanks, Dragon, and possibly Goldie Roger. They did leave Zoro on the field, and I definitely think that's a little bit of a mistake, just because Zoro gets me a Don every single time I swing with him, and that is so valuable. I can go from 9 to 10 here, which might not seem giant in the scheme of things, but that really changes a lot. We could drop our 9 cost Luffy and do a search with Nami looking for a 2k, or another 9 cost Luffy, or whatever the heck we want. The point is that leaving Zoro alive is just, I think, too risky for them, but they did it. Now I'm debating on the order of my swings. I'll do 5,000 with my leader next. I'm expecting them to counter out of this one, but they do take it, which is interesting. I wonder if they'll have a trigger. No trigger. We love to see that. Now I'm thinking we do 6,000 with Yasab, then maybe a 1 cost Nami search and the 9 cost secret rare Luffy. I think that's the move here. I think dropping the 10 drop, aka Time Walk Gear 5 Luffy is just a little too premature. I think that would be better saved for when we're about to finish the game and really close it out. Off the 9 cost Luffy's ability, we do draw a Zoro. That's fine, it's just some 1k counter. I can't imagine we'll play out another Zoro in this game. They're going to take the 10,000 swing for my Rush Luffy. Is there going to be a trigger? No trigger. We love to see it. Now for 1 Don, I think the move should be to search with Nami. I could leave that Don open just in case we get the Gum Giant out of life. I guess that's what I'll do. In hindsight, I think searching with the Nami is fine, but you never know when you'll need a Gum Giant, so I think that we're fine not to do the search. Now we'll pass it back to them. They're at 8 Don. I would expect a Rayleigh or Dragon here. But they're going to go Hongo to minus the Luffy by 2,000, and then Otama to minus the Luffy again by another 2,000, and then swing 9,000 into it. I definitely don't condone this move. I wonder what their hand is looking like. We are going to counter out of a bunch of these. I think I should have gave up the Zoro instead of the Nami with that counter. I guess I just don't really think it makes too much of a difference, just because I think we've got this game in the bag as it is, but you want to keep up your good habits, you know. We'll start our turn by doing 4,000 into the Hongo. Definitely expecting them to give that to us. They will use their leader ability here, and that's when I kind of realized that it's probably just GG's. There was no point to use your leader ability in there. Maybe they're just kind of learning the deck still. We'll go 6,000 with Yasab into the lead. They will give us the 2k Lime Juice. Now we're going to go 6,000 with our leader. They'll give us another 2k Lime Juice. How many of those do they have in their hand? Now I'm kind of debating what I should do next. I might play down the 10 drop, but honestly, I feel like Queen is also a fine play here. Establishing a decent blocker, cycling your hand a little bit, getting card advantage, and setting yourself even better for next turn to do a possibly Gear 5 Luffy. I don't know if I really need to do Gear 5 Luffy right now. I also don't know if it really makes a difference, just because I really do feel in control of this game. I don't want to get ahead of myself though, so maybe Yasab Queen is the move. I definitely should have played out the Yasab before swinging with my leader. That's definitely an F in the chat for a misplay, but it is what it is. We do get a little bit of card draw on cycle with Queen, but we don't really find anything. I don't think that Eustace Captain Kidd is going to do much for us this game, as we should be able to go for lethal next turn. Maybe they'll play something else, though, that throws off that plan, but I think we've got it in the bag. For 9 Don, this was a little bit unexpected. The 9 cost Edward Newgate, aka Whitebeard from OP09. I don't know if many Shanks decks are running Whitebeard anymore, so it is a cool thing to see. They're going to swing 8,000 at me with their leader, leaving no Don up for any events, which is pretty noteworthy. And this we can just counter out of. Now, unfortunately, because they're 7,000, a lot of my characters can't swing into them this turn. If I want to do Gear 5 Luffy, we're going to start our turn by doing a 10,000 swing with our Rush Luffy straight to their 7,000 leader. This is much easier to get out of because they are 7,000 power. That Whitebeard really did come in handy. I was not expecting it at all. I don't think a lot of Shanks decks run the 9 cost Whitebeard anymore. I think maybe they did in the beginning of OP09 in the East, but definitely an interesting play. Do they have the counter for us? Will they just take this? They will use their buff to minus my leader by 1,000, which is interesting. And I think that I'm fine just to go all in on my leader. Now, I do get a little bit confused, I think, and what I do is I play down Gear 5, thinking that their plus 2,000 buff will go away. But the thing is the buff stays until the start of your next turn, and so they've still got that crazy buff, so I'm unable to swing with my leader there. I definitely make this a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, just because I'm a little nervous. They're a 7,000 power leader and have a ton of cards in hand. I'm just going to do 12,000 with our Gear 5 Luffy. They're going to use their leader ability this turn to minus it by 1,000. Then they can just give me 2Ks and then a 1K if they've got it. Do they have it? They must have it. They do. They give me the 1K. So they're able to get out of that. Now I'm debating on whether or not to go all in with my leader. I'm playing a little bit conservatively here, and it is a dangerous game just because you never know what kind of spice they're running. The good news is that even if they have a Goldie Roger, I think I'm in the clear here. I've got the Gum Gum Giant event, which is huge. I've got a 2K, I've got a 1K. So I'm sitting pretty good right now. Now they hit me with the Gum Gum Kong Gatling from starter deck 10 to KO my Sanji blocker. This caught me so off guard. I was not expecting that at all. Now they can go 10,000 straight to my life with Whitebeard. I can get out of this. I can also get out of their next swing, so I don't think it really matters. I take it and I hope that they just swing at my leader with their leader with all their Don attached and don't leave any up for any events or play a blocker or anything. They actually do go with the Lucky Roo. They do not fall for the bait and swing into my leader, or they will, but they'll just have 6,000, which I can easily get out of with a Zorojoro counter. Now, I don't really have any secret technique to get around this Lucky Roo. I do play out the Uso Hachi just to be a little bit kind of cheeky, but I didn't even need to do that. I could have just swung all my Don on my leader and my Gear 5 Luffy and gotten there. If they did have three 2Ks in hand, I would actually have lost this game just because they'd be able to counter out of this and then block the next hit with Lucky Roo, and then they could have put it all on Edward Newgate and swing back into me. So really, that misplay almost cost me the game. I need to be better about that. I apologize. F in the chat. Shame on me. We'll do better next time, folks. They do have to block out of our leader swing, though, and so our Gear 5 swing can go through, and this definitely will. We've got the numbers. GG's. On to the next one. They're going to start off their turn with a Jewelry Bonney search, and they will find the 8-cost Eustace Captain Kid. That will be an annoying card to deal with, but we do have a lot of big bodies, so I think we'll find a way. We don't have a 3-Dom play. We'll just swing 8,000 into the Bonney Searcher, and they let it go. They're going to be at 4 Don. We could see an Arouge here. We could see another Searcher, and then maybe give some Don to their leader to swing at us. I'm not sure exactly who is favored in this matchup. I think there's merits on both sides. Being able to ramp to big bodies is great for Red Purple Luffy, but also Jewelry Bonney's ability does counter those big bodies pretty well. They're just going to go with the Rosinante blocker and then 6,000 into my leader. We are going to take this, hoping for something to play next turn, and we just get a 9-drop Whitebeard. I'm not sure how much we needed that right now. We're going to do 7,000 with our leader, giving him 1 Don. The reason we don't play out the Bon Clay first to get that extra Don ramp is because they would be able to rest it with their leader ability. That 7,000 attack will go through, which is good news, and now we'll play out the Bon Clay. The Bon Clay ramps us as Don. Next turn we will be at 8, and then we can ramp to 9, and I'm thinking that we go with the 9-drop Newgate. I'm going to be able to actually chain those back to back, which will be very nice, and it'll make it so it's hard for my opponent to hit me, which is what we need because 1, we don't have a lot of counter in hand, and 2, we only have 2 life. The struggles of starter deck 10, Red Purple Luffy. You're a 6k leader, which is amazing, but you only have 3 life, which to me feels so bad sometimes. They're just going to use their turn by playing out the Basil Hawkins. I don't love this for them, just because they did not leave a Don up for their leader ability. I'm actually going to be able to swing into them for 7,000 with Bon Clay, just because I can copy Basil Hawkins' power, so we'll swing into them for 7,000. We might see a block here, we might see them take it. They decide just to take it. Now, I think playing out the Whitebeard is probably my best bet. Establishing this big body and buffing my leader. 8,000 into them with leader. We'll see what they do about this. I think taking it is a little bit bold here, but they do. They're certainly going down far in life. I do not run the starter deck 10 4-cost Law, but if I did, it would feel so good to hit them with the trash 2 cards from your hand. For 5 Don, they're going to play down the Cavendish. The Cavendish restands 2 Don, so they still have another 5 Don to work with. We could see another blocker here. We could possibly see a carrot here. That would be interesting. I think they need to address my Mr. 2 Bon Clay with one of their swings at least. They will play down the Baby 5 Searcher, probably looking for a 10-cost Dofi or a 2-cost Rosinante blocker. You can never have too many Rosinante blockers. They will just find a Baby 5. I can't tell if that's the 2K version or a Searcher version. Either way, I am not afraid of that. Then they're going to give their leader 2 Don and swing 7,000 at Bon Clay. Of course, I'm going to give them that. Now we are at 10 Don, and we have a lot of different options. I think the Whitebeard is still the best bet, but I would also like to use Whitebeard's when attacking ability to get rid of the Baby 5 or the Rosinante blocker. So I'm actually leaning towards the 7-drop Eustace Captain Kid here, which will still give me a boost on defense, which is really nice. I'm thinking that we play that down, we return to Don and use his ability. They will rest my leader with Newgate's swing, which is fine. They block with Hawkins, which I will definitely take. Happy to get that off the board. Now we're going to play down the 7-cost Eustace Captain Kid. I think this card is sometimes controversial in a bunch of different lists, but personally I really like it, especially in Red Purple Luffy. I don't think it works as well in just regular Purple Luffy, but that's just my preference. I also think we missed out on using our leader ability there, where we could have another Don set as active, which I don't think is the end of the world, but at the same time is unideal, so we don't want to get in that habit. They're going to swing with Cavendish, knowing that it won't go through, but just so that they can restand those 2 Don to use leader ability, which I definitely understand. That 10-cost Dofi is going to be a little bit annoying, but I don't think it is the end of the world either. Now, I'm thinking that we might even go 9-cost Whitebeard again. I don't think that 9-cost Luffy would be a bad idea either. We're going to try to get Cavendish off the board maybe, just because Cavendish is going to keep getting them value, and I want them to not be able to play down a 10 cost Dofi and still have leader ability the next turn, and so that's why I really want to get it off the board. They don't even bother countering, which is interesting to me. I would not have expected that. With all those cards in hand, I would have expected them to counter. And if they did, I would have played the 9-drop Rush Luffy and swung into it again, trying to get that off the board. But since they let it go, I'll play a little bit more defensively and play down the 9-cost Whitebeard, powering up my leader by another 2,000. Between Eustace Captain Kidd and this Whitebeard, my leader is now at 9,000 power, which is ridiculous. 10,000 with their Dofi into my Eustace Kidd. I think I should save this. Just a big body that's going to apply a lot of pressure. Now I have to think of a card to trash. None of these feel great, so I will get rid of the Yasab. I don't think getting rid of a 9-cost Luffy would have been the worst idea in the world either, just because I do already have one, and I also have the Gear 5 Luffy, but like my mother always told me, you can never have too many Rush Luffys in hand. Now, our turn, 10 down to work with. We're just going to go straight to life here, I think. 10,000 with one of our new gates, the only active one that we can swing with. Now, we will use one of our Rush Luffys. I think we're going to play him out, return to Don. We can use leader ability to ramp again. And then we're going to swing 10,000 into their life. We could ramp again and then play down the Nami Searcher. I do kind of like that idea. They will take that 10,000 swing into life. Which is very surprising. Look at all those cards in hand. I think they're maybe going to play out a 8-cost Eustace Captain Kidd here and try to maybe build up a wall. But I don't think that's going to work. I think I have too many big bodies now. A 10-cost Dofi would also be helpful, but with my Gear 5 Luffy in hand and all these bodies on board that I'm going to be able to defend with the counter in my hand, I think we're in a good position. 8,000 at me with leader here. 7 Don left. I feel a Hody Jones is coming, and I think I should just let them feel like they're in control. Maybe they'll just split it up between the 2 Dofis, but I can get out of those as well. I'm not too worried about it. 13 with one of the Dofis. I'm debating on whether or not I should counter out of this, just because I might want to entice them to attack with the other Dofi and not play up any blockers, even if they do play up a blocker, I still think I got this in the game. What the heck? That's not even a saying. I'm losing it, folks. 14,000 at me, and here is where I just throw down a bunch of counter. They had to have known it was happening, but they really just didn't have much of a choice. They might just concede here, and yeah, that's GG's. They did have a ton of counter in hand. I think I would have went with the Eustace Captain Kidd and then Beige play, but I don't know if it really would have mattered just because I have so many big bodies. Maybe it was an early disconnect. I don't know. GG's though. On to the next one. Our final match of the day is going to be against a OP09 Blackbeard. This is the other hot new leader on the scene. I was going to say the hot new leader on the scene, but people are liking Shanks too, so I don't know if Blackbeard's the #1 hottest. But we are on the odd curve. 1 Don to work with. This has got to be a Nami play. We've got a 9-cost Luffy, a Gum Gum Giant, and an Onami. I think we're going to go with the 9-cost Luffy. By the end of the game, they're going to be using their leader ability non-stop, so it might be hard for that Luffy to get its ability off, but it's just a big body that I will need regardless just to get through those big 10-cost blockers. They're going to use the event This Is My Age to find a Hachinosu. Then they're going to play out Hachinosu, trashing a Van Augur, and drawing the Jesus Burgess. That's not a bad trade if I say so myself. I'm thinking here for 3 Don, we just go with the old reliable Zoro Joro leader combination. First, we're going to start off with our leader swing. You got to do the sequencing right, folks. They'll take the 6,000 hit, and then we'll play out the Zoro Joro and pass. For 4 Don, we could see a Jesus Burgess. We could see a Laboon. A Laboon would be pretty annoying as we don't have any way to remove it, really. Off the Hachinosu, they are able to find a 10-drop Blackbeard card. That'll be great. They have, for 4 Don, the Black Hole, which trashes my Zoro Joro. That is bad news, as I did not get any value from it. However, I can at least play Bon Clay. They did not use their leader ability yet, and so Bon Clay will allow me to ramp a Don as active. I think I'm debating on whether or not to play him out first or swing first. If I play him out first, I can swing with more Don, but then I also risk a trigger that will KO him, like Finger Pistol, and so that's why I'm swinging kind of less ideally here. I could have swung for more, but we're going to swing for 7. It will hit. They do get the trigger for This Is My Age, and what are they able to find? Don't tell me another 10-drop Blackbeard, or I might just rage quit and throw my keyboard across the room. That's just a joke, folks. I am calm, cool, and collected 99% of the time. They'll find the Shiryu 2K, nothing crazy there. We'll play down the Bon Clay and pass. For one Don, they'll use the This Is My Age searcher and find a Lafitte. Then for another Don, they'll play down Lafitte, rest another Don, and search with Lafitte. With Lafitte, they will find Moment of Truth. Drumroll, please. They'll draw another Shiryu. This is just another 2K, nothing to be too afraid of. And then they actually have another Lafitte. Ladies and gentlemen, how much searching are they going to do? They've got a very big hand size right now, which is a little bit intimidating. They will find another Shiryu. This is kind of getting ridiculous, folks. And then they get a Jesus Burgess with the stage, and they're going to swing 6,000 at me. That was a mouthful. I cannot believe that I just said all that. We are going to take the damage and get the Usohachi. That is a fine find. Nothing too crazy there. We'll always take a 2K. We're going to clear the Lafittes on the board and just play down the 9-cost Secret Rare Luffy, not using his ability because we can't. Even though that's a bummer, at least we have 2 others in our hand, and we're going to be able to start playing some big bodies. The Bon Clay, if it can survive late game, will be very helpful, as it can copy the power of a 10-cost Blackbeard. So even though he's only a 4-cost, he gets up to 12,000 real fast, and I spoke way too soon because a Finger Pistol was able to KO that Bon Clay, and now that feels bad. They've got a very strong Jesus Burgess on the field, and I have no way to get rid of it. I guess we're just going to swing first with our leader here and then play out the 9-cost Luffy again, but we can't use his rush, so that kind of feels bad. They give us a 2K for our leader swing, and then they will let the 9-cost Luffy swing go through. I could have swung for 7, which would have required more cards from hand, but I am kind of leaving that one up in case we do get a Gum Gum Giant out of life. They are going to have the 10-drop Blackbeard. We knew they had it in their hand. They will prevent one of my Luffys from swinging next turn, and now it's just a matter of are they going to swing into my Luffy with their Jesus Burgess, or are they going to swing into my life? I think I would prefer them to definitely swing into my Luffy character, because I can much easily counter out of that. So I'm definitely happy they did that. We cannot use our on-play ability still. They do have Black Hole activated. We're just going to start off with a 6,000 swing from our leader. If they want to block, great. They do not. They will counter for 2K. I almost make a misplay and swing with one of my Luffys for 10,000, but if I'm not swinging for over 12,000, there's no point, because they'll just be able to free block. Here I decide to go with the Onami, and then also the 6-cost 6,000 power Sanji, just trying to set up some blockers, but then hopefully at least the Sanji can be an attacker next turn. Even if they have another Whitebeard, oh my god, ladies and gentlemen, it's getting late into the night. Even if they have another Blackbeard, which it looks like they do, having an extra swing will be really helpful. We're going to let this 11,000 swing go through, and now they're going to do 12,000. I think that might be a mistake, maybe. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I think we're in a perfectly fine position still. Even though they've got those big bodies, I'm pretty content with what we have as well. We are going to start out with a leader swing of 6,000. This could easily be blocked, but I'm fine if they do that. They declined the block. Now the question is, will they counter out of it? They will. Maybe I should have given that an extra Don to make it 7,000. That might have been a little bit better if I say so myself. I decide that why don't we guarantee getting one of their bodies off the board here. We'll do 14,000 into their rested Blackbeard. Clearing that is a great feeling. And then for the remaining Don, we can play a Queen. We can't use his on-play ability, which is a bummer. But then we do have a Don up for Gum Gum Giant, so they can't really push for game here. They're going to do 12,000 into one of my Luffys with Jesus Burgess. We will give them the counter here. We do not want to give up that Luffy. We want to push for game. Now 12,000 with their 10 cost Blackbeard. I'm wondering if they're going to play another one, which would be very annoying, but kind of funny. We will use Gum Gum Giant to keep our Luffy alive. We draw 2 cards. We get an Uso Hachi and a Zoro Joro. I'll take the counter. They're going to pitch a card for Hachinosu. They draw the Dock Q, and then, of course, they have the other Blackbeard. It is so funny when Blackbeards chain together, like 3 or 4 of them in a row. They prevent my one Luffy from attacking this turn, but they weren't able to use leader ability just because they were running out of cards in hand. And so I have a 9 cost Luffy in hand that I can play, and that'll have rush. And I might just be able to go for game here. Maybe I can take it slow a little bit. I do have another queen in my hand. That might not actually be a bad idea. Playing down the queen, I get to use his ability, and yeah, as you can see, I'm kind of struggling with what I want to do exactly. I decide that I'm just, again, going to clear one of their Blackbeards. If we make this a war of attrition, I think I will win. I've got plenty of blockers. I've got plenty of swings. 14,000 into one of their Blackbeards. They've got to give me this, and they do. Now I'm debating on whether or not I should swing into their leader. I think I will, but I expect them to free block. They don't, which I think is a mistake. I think they definitely should have. I guess technically maybe I could have went for game if they did block. So I don't know. I guess it's not a mistake. We'll just play out the queen though, cycle some cards, and yeah, that is the icing on the cake. I guess if they did block that with the Blackbeard blocker, I could have swung like 9,000 with queen and Sanji blockers. So I guess I had it that way. But once I set up a third blocker, there was no way for them to kind of come back from this. GG's. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the games I got for you today. What did you think about them? I had a ton of fun playing this leader. As I mentioned in the intro, I definitely think this deck can be built in a lot of different ways, and so I'm definitely going to try some other builds as well. I wonder if I'm crazy for not running the 10 cost Shanks from OP09, but we'll give it a shot and find out. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Consider hitting that subscribe button because I got way more content on the way, and I think you'll enjoy it if you enjoyed this video. If you didn't enjoy the video, what the heck are you still doing here? But seriously, like, comment, subscribe. It means the world. That's all I got to say today. Peace.